Ricky.
Hello and welcome to the World Literature Show. Tonight we'll be learning about the great man himself, the wonderful, the spectacular William Shakespeare! Or should I say Edward de Vere? Recently some discrepancy has arisen regarding the true author of such plays as The Tempest, As You Like It, The Merchant of Venice, King Lear, The Taming of the Shrew, as assumed to have been written by this Shakespeare, a middle-class 16th century businessman from Stratford. Some now believe that the true identity of the bard is the 17th Earl of Oxford, Edward de Vere. To find the truth about the identity of one of the world's greatest literary geniuses, I've invited a few special guests to the show. To defend Shakespeare's name as the world's greatest playwright, please welcome Evelyn Wheat Crocker and Ewan P. Cornwall. And arguing against Shakespeare's authorship tonight will be Lady Mary Ellington and Winston Pendleton Nesbitt IV. Let the debates begin.
Let's start with William Shakespeare of Stratford upon Avon. That is his name, by the way, Shakespeare, not Shakespeare. It's close, but the two names are different.
It's well known that spellings will hardly stand in the Elizabethan era, when illiteracy was a fact of life for the majority of the citizens.
Speaking of illiteracy, so far as it is known or can be proved, both of William Shakespeare's, or As You Like It, both of William Shakespeare's parents, his wife, and his children were literate, and there is no evidence to the contrary that he wasn't as well.
However, there is evidence that he was an actor. Certainly he had to be able to read lines from a script.
Perhaps he was a bit player whose parts required very little reading. The truth is, we know almost nothing about him, compared to the other writers of the day. How do we explain the fact that there are handwritten manuscripts that survived from writers like Ben Jonson, John Donne, and Christopher Marlowe, but none, not a single player poem written in Shakespeare's own hand?
An incredible amount of written materials were lost in the Great London Fire of 1666. Since Shakespeare lived in London while he was an actor, who's to say his handwritten manuscripts weren't lost in the fire?
But it's more than just his plays and poems. There is nothing that survives in his written hand, not a diary, not a letter, not a note, not even a grocery list.
Again, all of it could have been lost in the fire.
Why then do we have so many surviving documents of Shakespeare's business dealings? Do you believe a fire selectively destroyed his literary work and spared his business papers?
Oh, come off it. Shakespeare's business dealings happened in Stratford, not London. It's possible that his manuscript perished in the London fire while his business documents remained safe in Stratford.
There is also the case of his will, which goes into exact detail, to the point of giving his wife the second best bed, yet does not mention any manuscripts. Remember, he died in 1616, several decades before the London fire of 1666. If he had written all these plays, why did he not bequeath them?
Perhaps he considered them the property of the troops that performed them. After all, he was a middle-class citizen who wrote to pay the bills. In 1616, there wasn't the same respect accorded plays or frivolous, sinful entertainment for the lower orders, as the church put it, that there is now. They may not have had much monetary value as objects worth mentioning in a will.
Books had value then. Experts from the fields of science, medicine, law, history, and literature agree that this writer was tremendously well read. Given that there were no libraries in existence and a middle-class citizen would not have had access to collections belonging to nobles, how else would William Shakespeare read so much if he did not own the books himself? Not a single book is mentioned in his will. Other writers like John Donne, Ben Jonson, and Christopher Marlowe owned collections of books.
Good point, my esteemed colleague. It's clear here that some of us might be well-read, while others might not be. I myself am a great admirer of Theodore Geisel in particular.
Indeed, indeed. Although I much prefer the works of Dr. Seuss.
Theodore Geisel is Dr. Seuss, you imbecile.
Anyway, a playwright would need access to books, that's true. It could be that someone who stood to profit from his play playwriting granted him access to a library. He wouldn't necessarily need to own any books himself.
Well, I like J.K. Rowling.
Oh yeah? Well, the Grinch could kick Harry Potter's ass any day. I've read an entire Wikipedia article on it. Has to be true then.
Congratulations. You want a biscuit?
Well, actually, I am a bit peppers.
We could sit here all day speculating about whether or not William Shakespeare wrote these plays, but I have a candidate who easily fits the profile of the person who could have written these works. Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford.
Of course, it's just not possible that a common middle-class man could be a genius. It would have to be a member of the royalty.
Well, why can't a member of royalty be a genius? Besides, there's a good reason that de Vere hid his work under a pseudonym. He wrote material that mocked the nobility. He could have gotten in a lot of trouble for criticizing the royal court in his plays, and it did not look good for a noble to be associating with the theatre at the time.
Criticizing the royal court would be even easier for a middle-class citizen like Shakespeare to do.
But an earl would know the ins and the outs of the court better. Also, if one looks at the plays closely, they'd recognize that someone like de Vere, who's traveled extensively in Italy, where many plays are set, would learn a lot about that country. Look at Othello. Here's a play set in Venice, Italy, mentioning many details that only someone who had been there would know about. Is it just a coincidence that Othello is set in Venice and is about a man who finds out his wife is cheating on him, when de Vere himself found out his wife was cheating on him while he was traveling in Venice? Shakespeare never traveled beyond Stratford and London, and the towns that connected the two.
Who's to say Shakespeare didn't pick up all these stories from a friend at the local tavern who'd been to Venice and filled him in on the details?
There are many more coincidences between de Vere's life and the plays. Every play is set in the royal court except for the Merry Wives of Windsor. It just so happens that de Vere spent his entire life among the royal circles, except for when he suffered from a prolonged illness, whereupon he took time to convalesce in, you guessed it, the town of Windsor.
Please do go on.
I will. Many famous characters in Shakespeare's plays are reflected in people de Vere knew. His first marriage was a union of two individuals from families with a history of disagreement, a la the Montagues and Capulets of Romeo and Juliet.
Do you bite your thumb at me, sir?
Well, yes, I do. Are you blind?
I'm not blind, what you...
De Vere borrowed a great deal of money from Jewish moneylenders in Venice and had trouble paying it back, hence the Merchant of Venice. De Vere had an outspoken, shrewish sister-in-law, Kate from The Taming of the Shrew, and just as in King Lear, de Vere had 3 daughters and bequeathed them property before he died in 1604.
Stop right there. How do you account for the fact that de Vere died in 1604 when plays continued to be written for 5 more years after that?
Yes, please enlighten us.
So now you want to play it. The Elizabethan era was not well documented card when it suits your purpose. Since when is the chronology of those plays set in stone?
Yes. How would you know? Were you there?
Maybe I was.
What's about the Tempest? Which refers to an event from 1609, 5 years after de Vere died.
Aha!
Speculation and pure conjecture. There were plenty of other shipwrecks prior to it could have been based on.
But we are talking about the Tempest, a specific storm and shipwreck dating to 1609. And voila! Here we have a Shakespeare play from 1609 about an event in 1609. The Tempest.
The Tempest 1609! The Tempest 1609! It's like a broken record with you people. It's the equivalent of the Yankees fans and their 1918 chants. The ship was found in 1609. The wreck itself happened earlier in 1593. De Vere owned the ship, so he would have known about the wreck within the year it was happening. Therefore, he could have written a play about it before he died in 1609.
Get! Burke! Get a snipe!
Chimney sweep.
Yankee!
Frenchy.
Now, what do you say?
So we agree to disagree.
All right, then. All right. Enchanté.
My pleasure.
Jolly good show, old
It
sport.
sure was like a marvelous time. Thank you both so much. Very nice meeting you. How dare you embarrass me like that?
There you have it. Both sides have argued their case, and we want you to decide the truth about the man known simply as the Bard. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out tonight, and can we get a round of applause for Michael Hines? Aaron Trido. Ian Stair. And Tass Crocker. Thank you. See you later. See you.